Greetings one and all, it is me, I'm back, Natural Mystic, also known as Ladybug, and sometimes people call me Leash. So, what's this week taught me in regards to Locs of Love and trying to replenish my edges? So, I'm maybe going to talk to you about the stuff that people with locks don't often talk to you about. So, in the beginning, when we have normal hair, excuse me, we go through a phase where, it's all a bit all over the place and it doesn't do what it is we want it to do. And then it gets to that nice comfortable length where we're able to style it and, it's not too heavy. And then quite rapidly, it can grow quite quick depending on, your metabolism, what you eat and how you take care of your locks in general. I wasn't really one for sort of overly playing with them and tugging them and doing styles and bits and pieces. I've always just kind of worn scarves or just had them loose depending on the occasion, or just ponytails, nothing fancy. I'm not that kind of person. And then as time went on, my locks are now sort of waist length, should we say, just sort of tailbone, occasionally sitting on the odd one, so just have to be cautious. And what this journey over the last few weeks has taught me more so than anything is all the good things that I've done with my locks, and then technically all the bad things I've also done with my locks. So let's do a little bit of a parallel. When I first had locks, I used to wear them out more often and I didn't tug on the hair at all because it was at a length where it wasn't in my face, it didn't get into food, it didn't get into all the stuff that it does now. Also the jobs that I've done, all the employment and the services and industries that I've worked in have really been a significant factor as to the amount of times I've had to keep my locks covered. So one of my biggest do's is to give your hair and your head as much air as possible and daylight. So that's the big do. The big don't is do what I did, is stretch it when styling and having it really tight, number one, when it was out occasionally. But then the number of hours I wear a headscarf, for example. So when I'm not out and about or when I'm not going out, there's nothing wrong with me walking around my home. I live alone, nobody's here, I'm not embarrassed, so keep it sort of upright as it is now, no stress on it, no tension anywhere, and there's no bands or anything sort of holding it in place. It's just my tuck and roll technique. It always tends to fall to one side more so than others, so I do try and keep it centralized, and I will lead on to why that is. So the do. When your locks become a certain length, for example, and you begin to feel the weight difference, you do get to a stage where you can topple over. It sounds funny, I know, but there have been a few occasions where I've bent down and I've not compensated for the extra weight as I go over or go down. So there have been occasions where I technically have to learn to use my core muscles more and my neck as well. So I drive a lot. I'm a what you call an essential worker, key worker during these times, and I've found that depending on how I wrap my hair or how I keep it out of the way during the day or when I'm in a vehicle in particular, can really be sort of quite aching on my neck. So where the headrest is in the car, I find that I have to make sure that my hair is out of the way and I'm not resting on the bun, if that makes sense, or the weight, that part of my hair. Because I do drive, I'm very cautious of the airbag also. God forbid that ever has to go off while I'm in the vehicle. I say no more than that, but it would mean that the headrest is not actually supporting my head or my neck in a protective way that it would if it wasn't for all of this. And I don't think a lot of people realise that depending on your height also determines whether the seat or the car that you're in is actually good for you, not just posture wise, but also in a protective way. Being a smaller person, I'm not average height. I'm only like 5'2", if you want a sort of 1.5 meters and a bit, probably something like that. And I've realised that there are certain cars I've had over the years where I've basically had to sit on a cushion, just not because I can't see over the steering wheel, but because of the angle of the steering wheel, the depth of the seat if you can't raise it. So those are the sorts of things that, you know, a lot of people don't take into consideration when they've got Locs. So this was a little bit different, you know, not so much about the actual routine or the technique or what it is that I'm using, but about a little bit about the do's and don'ts and the things that, you know, some of us do think about and some of us don't think about, and maybe what we'll experience on our Loc journeys. Finally, not to make this too long, in all honesty, sleeping. Now, a lot of you will be like, what's the problem? So I have had partners in the past when my Locs were shorter, and I realised that I wanted to sleep with my Locs out, like free, just on the pillow. And there would be occasions where the person that I'm sleeping with would roll over and they'd lay on a portion of what's growing out of my head. So I would then try to change position and can't. And if I do, it hurts because obviously I've got the weight of someone's head, you know, laying on my hair, so I'm not able to move. Also waking up with like welts, I don't know if that's what I want to call them, but like dents in various different parts of my face where the Locs have fallen across and I've kind of just been laying on them, and you wake up in the morning and you're late, especially, so your muscles and your face doesn't get time to warm up, so you kind of, you know, go out of the house and you've got all these little marks over you and people think that something's happened to you during the night, and you kind of have to explain, don't worry, I was just sleeping on my hair, you know. And so, you know, just the weirdness of the things that happen that do make you chuckle, but you learn to kind of work around them. So, you know, fortunately, I have been without a partner or single, however you want to call it, for a period of time. And with the length of my Locs the way that they are now, I'm actually quite grateful because they now have a pillow of their own. Quite frankly, my mum had Locs as well, growing up, and there were times when I stayed with her and we slept in the same bed, and I realised that she would sort of move them around like a third person, and I'm realising that the longer my Locs gets, they're not a third person, they just feel like another person. But to leave you with a great positive, as we're moving into the colder weather, because I'm in the UK, and yeah, we're sort of in that autumnal phase where the temperature's starting to change, it's starting to get a little bit frosty occasionally, we can feel it coming, it's damp and it's dismal. I try not to wet my hair too much, like overall, because yeah, damp hair, it does create a funky smell. So if you can't dry your hair out thoroughly, and this is for even people without Locs, if you can't dry your hair out thoroughly before going out into that damp environment, you will find that, you know, especially with people with Locs, like inside the actual, each lock, if you was kind of to feel it and squeeze it, it would feel soft and squidgy inside, and there'd be a certain dampness, and if that doesn't dry out, it does attract a lot of dust, but also can create a not so pleasant smell, which you then have to just wash out thoroughly, and condition, deep cleanse, and all that stuff that smells good to actually get that funk out of there, and then go through the process of applying your oils and greases and what it is you do and making sure it's dried thoroughly. So yeah, that was a bit of a positive, that I've learnt to sleep more comfortably, more so, especially being on my own, to be honest. So it's not a bad thing in that respect. And eventually, if I do ever find myself a man, yeah, we'll figure out what we'll do with it. And if he has Locs as well, then yeah, we can probably end up in some strange positions and knots, is all I'm going to say on that note. So thank you very much, one and all, for those of you who've liked my page, commented, subscribed, and felt like you're comfortable enough sharing what it is that I'm doing. And yeah, I'm not particularly technical right now in regards to how I'm talking about it. It's literally just sharing my lots of love with you. So lots of love to you all, one and all. Take care. Thank you so much for joining me.